So welcome everyone to our session, which is related to fraud examination and reporting the result of fraud examination. So someone will say, Iyad, so is this about writing fraud examination report? The answer is no. So many of you expected when you register for this session, you heard the best practices in reporting fraud examination result, that I'm gonna come here and tell you about how you are gonna write your fraud examination report, which is important subject. But writing fraud examination report is a simple task, it's not complicated. You are gonna take all the facts and you are gonna list them in a certain order to present it to the readers of the report. It can be the legal department, it can be the media, it can be the audit committee, it can be even the suspect who is actually doing the fraud. I am here to speak with you about reporting fraud examination results. What's the meaning reporting? Reporting will not happen when the investigation will finish. They say as a fraud examiners, we start with reporting. So when you are going to start the investigation, you need to start reporting. The meaning, you are working in the fraud investigation department and you get a call from, let's say, compliance, saying someone reported that through the hot whistleblowing line that something going on. So now you need to report this to the audit committee. You need to send an email or you need to pick up the phone and report to the audit committee. Look, we have received an alert. We have received some information. We have received a whistleblowing information that fraud may be happening, and now we are trying to go and collect more information to decide if we are going to launch investigation or not. See, so reporting will not happen after the investigation. When we finish the investigation and we say now it's time to go and present our fraud investigation result at the end. Reporting will start when we are going to begin the investigation. When you are trying to communicate information with all the parties involved in the fraud investigation, in the investigation team, this is considered reporting. When you are giving update to audit committee, when you are giving update to the legal department, when you are speaking with HR, when you are collecting information from HR. So reporting is a continuous process from the minute we start investigation until the minute we uncover all the facts and we present the final audit, the final fraud report to the audit committee. Now, someone will think about when we are speaking about reporting, that, oh, reporting is all about making sure we get all the facts, we get all the information, we document them in the proper way. But actually, it's not only about documenting the information. It's not about making sure all the information is documented in the correct way. They say reporting the fraud results, the fraud investigation result is more important than the fact you uncover. So let's say you are working in a fraud investigation and you uncover so many fraud, so many techniques, so many schemes, so much corruption, there's money laundering. All this information you uncovered during your examination is not important if you don't explain to the reader of the report how you uncovered them. How were you able to obtain this information? From who you obtained this information? What are these information that you obtain? If you can't explain it simply to the reader for him to understand that you collected the information in a legitimate way, you didn't go and steal the information, you have obtained the information in the proper way, you have interviewed the individuals in the right order, you have collected the information from reputable sources, and you obtained them legally. Because one of the most important things in any reporting related to fraud examination is what we call, always we need to assume litigation will follow. You need to always assume that at the end of your case, we are going to take this case to court. So if you are going to take this case to court, we need to make sure that all the information are corrected in the proper way, they are corrected in the legal way, and they are documented in the proper way, so later in the court we can present it. So I'll give you an example. If you went and obtained, for example, information from a laptop of a person without search warrant, this information can't be used later in your investigation. If you go and interviewed someone and told him, I will not allow you to leave the room until you tell me what happened, and he told you what happened, in that way you make him your prisoner. So the information you collected from him, you can't use it in your investigation. So in that case, what is the fraud examination report? The fraud examination report is documenting how you, as a fraud examiner, conducted your fraud investigation. This is what is fraud examination report. Is not conducting how the fraud happened. Sometimes individuals will think, when we are writing a fraud examination report, we are documenting how the fraudsters committed the fraud. No, the fraud examination report documenting our work as a fraud examiners, explaining to the reader what we have done to collect the evidence, what we have done to interview the individuals, what we have done to analyze the evidence, and based on that, how we came up with the conclusion based on all these facts. So it's documenting our credibility, our work, to show that we were not sleeping and we uncovered these facts. We were able to uncover these facts based on the proper methodology of fraud examination. We made sure when we are following the investigation process is to rely on evidence, not our intuition. You can't say in your fraud examination report, I suspected that the person is doing the fraud. Someone say what? Or you say, I think. What do you mean you think? Or I feel. You always say, based on the evidence, this is what we concluded. You are not providing an opinion. You are providing a conclusion based on the facts and evidence. And this is the main idea when you are actually reporting fraud examination. You are reporting the work that you have done. And this is why when you are reporting that work, the first question you need to answer in your report is why we started this investigation. Why we are investigating this person. If you can't answer this question in your investigation report, this is a big issue. So are you starting this investigation to be able to uncover what the fraud the person did? Or you started this investigation to be able to find the assets that he took? Or you started this investigation to uncover the method he followed to commit the fraud? Or you started this investigation to document everything he did so you can submit it to the insurance company? So the first objective when you are trying to think about reporting fraud examination result is defining your investigation objective. You need to determine what is the investigation objective that we have here. Is it finding evidence against a suspect? We are going to take legal case against him. We are going to recover the assets. We are going to uncover the method he followed. We are going to document the result. What is the main objective? Maybe there are more than one objective. And this is why it's very important before you start the investigation and before you start writing your fraud examination report is to speak with the audit committee, speak with the investigation team and say, guys, what are the objectives of this investigation that we are doing here? Before we start the investigation and before we start documentation, because the main objective is to document the objective that's been done. The meaning we collected the evidence and we found out exactly where are the assets and we were able to recover them. So based on the objective, the structure of the report and the writing of the report should be done related to the fraud investigation case. So today, my objective is to present the information to you with a different case study. These case studies will help you understand exactly how fraud reporting should be done properly. So let's start. First, when we are speaking about reporting fraud, there are three individuals inside the organization usually will report fraud. Who they are? Number one, employees and managers. Employees and managers, they usually report fraud. If you are working as an employee and as a manager, as you are doing your work, when you are performing your duties, you may notice something unusual. You may notice suspicious activity. You may notice a red flag. You may notice something like according to the policy of the organization. You may notice unethical behavior, fraudulent transaction. So your job as an employee and a manager to report this to not the audit committee, not to the fraud department, to report it to the whistleblowing line. So most organizations, they have whistleblowing line or they have hotline where employees, they report any kind of expected or unusual activity or fraudulent or unethical activity to the compliance hotline, to the whistleblowing line. So this is your job as an employee, as a manager. So your job is to report to the whistleblower. This is the first one. The second one is your role when you are working as an auditor. If you are working as an auditor, your role as an auditor is to go and audit. We are speaking about internal auditors. Internal auditors, their role is to go and audit the internal procedures, the operation, the compliance inside the organization, the risk management. And while they are auditing, they need to look for red flags. they need to look for any indications of fraud. And if they found any indication of fraud, they need to report this to who? They need to report this to the audit committee. See, auditors, they don't call the hot whistleblowing line. They are not employees. Employees, they call the hot whistleblowing line. Auditors, they will report this to the audit committee, saying, hey, audit committee, while we are performing our audit, we have noticed some red flags. We didn't go collect more evidence. We didn't go do investigation. This is not our job. The investigation department will do the investigation. Our job is to report to you as an audit committee that we have some red flags, something that's unusual. Example, I am going and doing a warehouse audit, and I discover there are some items missing in the warehouse. I speak with the warehouse manager. He will say, I have no idea. And I check the report, there is nothing. So it looks like some items are not in the warehouse. The reports, they can't explain where they are, and the warehouse manager can't explain. No one. So in that way, we have red flag. Maybe there is a fraud. We don't know, maybe. This is why we need to go and report this issue to the audit committee. We need to tell the audit committee, listen, actually, we have indication related to fraud. Then audit committee, oh my God, indication related to fraud. They say yes. Then they say what they need to do. Now, audit committee, when they discover there is indication related to fraud, they are going to go assign this to the investigation department to say, investigation department, go and take a look at it. Go and collect more evidence. Go and interview individuals to figure out if this is fraud or not. So the first question the investigation department need to answer when any case of fraud referred to them, either through the whistleblowing line hotline or through the internal auditors, is this fraud? We need to always act based on predication. What's the meaning of predication? Enough evidence. If we don't have enough evidence, we can't launch an investigation. If someone will call and say, Ahmed is receiving bribe from Khalid, that's not enough. If someone will, from internal auditor will come and say, there are items in the warehouse are missing. This is not enough for us to launch investigation. We need to collect more evidence to see, is this non-compliance? Is this a mistake? Or this is an actual fraud, and we launch the investigation. So we need to answer this simple question. If this is a fraud, yes, we launch an investigation. We inform the audit committee. We inform the auditors. If this is not fraud, we go back to the audit committee and we report to them. See, we are not going to write fraud examination report. We are going to report back to them and say, listen, we have examined this case and this is a mistake. Someone made a mistake. Someone was not following the policy of the organization because he was not aware. So this is why some items were missing, because he gave these items to the customer, but he didn't record them properly in the warehouse. Okay. So it's a mistake. So it's not actually fraud. Or it looks like the individual is not following the proper procedure. So it can be a compliance issue. So this is why we always need to address the issue based on what? Based on the information that we have in front of us to determine if this is fraud or not. So this is the second type. Auditors will report red flags to the audit committee. Now, the third type of reporting is fraud examiners. Fraud examiners in the fraud department, while they are doing their work, if they discover any kind of fraud during their examination, they need to report the result to who? To the audit committee and board of directors. They should not report it to the CEO. They should not report it outside the reporting lines. They should not report it on social media. They should not report it to the regulators. Their job as fraud examiners is to report the results related to their work to the audit committee and to the board of directors inside the organization. They should not report it to the shareholders. The board of directors, they represent the shareholders. So board of directors, audit committee, they are responsible. Sometimes some organizations, they have what we call fraud committee. So they report to the fraud committee. So now we understand these three individuals who are reporting fraud cases. And that will make us understand who is responsible for what. Employees are responsible for reporting fraud to the hotline. Auditors are responsible for reporting red flags to the audit committee. And fraud examiners are responsible for reporting fraud cases to the audit committee and board of directors.